Hello and welcome to today's video. Today is my fourth update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan. This was started by Alexy a long time ago. All the information is listed in the description box. I'm sure you've heard that introduction a million times at this point because if you're watching this video, you probably like to binge watch other Pan Those Eyeshadows. So we have a little bit of an uneventful update today, so why don't we go ahead and get into it. Okay, as we get started, a quick reminder, I'm working on 6 shadows. At the early parts of this project, I was okay with 6 shadows. At this point, this month, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like I just didn't have time to work on everything that I wanted to. And then also, I have 3 rules for which I can roll palettes out. 1, I can hit pan on them. 2, I can use the shade 20 times, or I can use the palette as a whole 25 times. Today, I have no new items rolling out, and I'm actually gonna go from the things that I use most often to the things that I use least often. Now, I will go ahead and throw out a disclaimer. I've started working on a summer kind of looks series, and I was working on getting some looks together this month for that, and I'm also probably gonna be working on it next month too. It takes me a long time to prepare those videos. I have to create looks and film looks, and it's just a lot of work, and there's a lot of ideas that I have for those videos. So for the next couple months, my updates for this probably won't be that exciting. But first off, I'll start off talking about my Lorac Pro Palette. This is the Pro 3 palette, and this palette has showed up a couple times in this project for me already. You'll see 2 pans up in the corner that I've already hit in previous updates. And I was actually working on the shade called Truffle. It's a kind of like satin, dark brown. That's a swatch of it right there. And this, I'm having some luck with using it both as a liner. I can build it up as a light kind of smudged out liner look, which I do like occasionally. And also I can use it in the outer corner to like deepen up a look. I've also used it kind of like a halo eye, inner and outer corner. It's a really nice shadow and I find it pretty easy to work with. And you'll see that this month I have a little bit of a dip. I was really hoping that we would have pan on it today, but hopefully you'll be able to see we do not have pan yet, but we're doing pretty good. I am not minding this shade. I thought it would be really difficult when I first rolled it in, but however, it's turned out to be just fine. So we're gonna keep rolling with this one. Although I have used this palette, or I have used this shade 24 times, I could technically roll it out. I actually feel pretty motivated to keep reaching for this, so I'm gonna keep this one in until I hit pan on it. Also, I wanted to point out that I have been using this more as a lid setting shade, and you can see that the pan on this guy has widened a good bit, so yay for that. Okay, the next palette we're gonna talk about is my Modern Renaissance palette. This is another palette that has been in here one time already, but I've been working on a different shade. I was first working on a really dark brown shade, and this shade I'm working on is Primavera now. It's a really light kind of gold shade. I find it mostly is useful as a topper shade. I don't do a ton of inner corner highlighting. I don't think it, well, I have trouble with it, we'll just say that. But I haven't used it a ton that way. I probably could get a little bit more use out of it. I prefer to pick it up with my finger, and hopefully today, I've used this, I believe it's 18 times, and hopefully today you can see that we have a little bit of a dip going on, but we definitely have a lot further to go, especially considering that I do use my finger to pick it up. It's definitely going to take a lot more time to hit pan on it because I'm picking up so much product off the entire top layer versus like focusing in on one part of the shadow that would create a dip faster. So I'm also feeling like I'll probably keep this one in until the very end until I hit pan on it, because this is another palette that I quite enjoy reaching for on a regular basis. So no pan here, but I do think that probably within 2 months more usage, I could probably get pan. Okay, the third palette that we're gonna talk about today is the Solmåne palette from Oden. This is the one palette that actually kind of inspired me to add in the rule that if I use an entire palette 25 times, then I would be able to roll it out, because this palette is so brand new to me. I didn't wanna just find myself reaching for like one shade just to hit pan on it. I wanted to be able to experience the entire palette because it's a really beautiful color story. Now, I'm working on the shade in here called Soul, and it's kind of like a yellow undertone orange, really beautiful. At the same time, I'm not quite ready for those super warm tone looks yet, because while I want it to be summer, we've had snow here the past couple days, and I'm just not ready yet. But this is the swatch of that. As you can see there, it's kind of like that Kraft mac and cheese color. And I've used this shade, I think, let me double check. Yeah, 9 times, and I've used the palette 12 times. So I'm doing a little bit better. Again, like I said, I'm reaching for some other shades right now to create looks for the summer. This is the little bit of a dip I think you can see is a little bit more visible than it was last month. But I'm just reaching for other palettes right now to create other looks. And I'm trying to focus on another palette that you'll see progress in, and I feel like I'm showing a little bit of progress. I'm actually kind of focused on 2 palettes right now. I'm going to talk about them in a second. But oh my goodness, if one of them I feel like I use and use and use and use pretty heavily, and like it does not change. I'll show you in a second. But let me finish talking about this one first. I'm going to continue to use this until I use, probably this one will be one that I use the palette 25 times and then roll it out. Because while I do like this shade, I am getting a little bit tired of creating orange looks. So this one will be in hopefully like 1 more month. Hopefully I can reach for this a good bit over the next month, but we'll see. Okay, next up we have the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette. This one, I actually said the wrong shade name because the stickers all in the back always confuse me. It's not rosy, it's spaced out, the shade that I'm working on. It's kind of like this deep, like almost like a warm tone mauve shade in it. This is one that I have used 7 times, but I mean, when you commit to using the shade, you commit to doing a mauve look. I don't know how to wear this shade without turning an entire look mauve. So the fact that I've worn this 7 times, I believe, over the last month, that's 7 mauve looks, and I'm not someone who likes to repeat mauve looks often. I do really enjoy this shade, and I enjoy reaching for the whole palette. Like, I enjoy the mauve looks that I create. However, I'm just like shocked that I use this shade pretty heavily, and yet it does not look like it to me. Like, it looks like just, you can barely tell that it's been touched. This makes me so intimidated to hit actual pan on this. I imagine these pans are super deep and they take a while to hit pan on. So hopefully this will be one that, I don't know, we'll see. I wouldn't mind hitting pan in this one, but at the same time, the thought of like having to keep going, like maybe it might be just one that I roll out after 20 uses, because this thing, I imagine, is going to take forever. Okay, moving into my 5th palette, I have the Emeralds palette from Profusion. I'm working on the shade in here called Harlequin, and it is a bright green shade. Very pretty, a lot of fun to add in during like the springtime months, which doesn't really feel like spring lately, but at least it's a little fun pop of color. I have reached for this over 5 times, I can't quite remember, probably like 6, 7 times, and I've used the palette 1 extra time. So it's gonna be a while. At the same time, these shades are not, like they definitely have a good bit of kick up. So I do think that while I've only used the shade itself like 5 or 6 or 7 times, I'm seeing good progress in it already. So I have high hopes that over the next month or so, we'll be able to hit pan on this one. If I wasn't filming those like summer looks, I probably would have much better progress on this one, because this is one I do find myself wanting to reach for a good bit. But like I said, I'm really trying to work hard on getting the future videos done, especially since Bo and I are hoping to travel during summer. I want to go ahead and get those videos done and like finished. So this one could definitely have better progress, but so far I think I'm doing pretty well with it. All right, and last up I have the Natasha Denona Mini Lila palette, and I'm working on the middle shade called Raisin. This is another one that I feel like I haven't really worn a ton, but when I do use it, I feel like I use it pretty heavily. Like I use it as a liner or deepening up a look, and I use a good bit of it. It's also so similar to the Marvelous Mauves palette that I find myself reaching for the Mauve palette before I reach for this. I'm wearing this today on my lower lash line, but again, it's just not, it's not making a ton of progress. I don't know what to expect from this shade, so I have a feeling that this one will be one that I end up probably reaching for the whole palette or reaching for that shade 20 times before I roll it out, and I probably won't end up hitting pan on this little guy because I do anticipate this one being a little bit harder to do that with. So like I said, a very uneventful update today. No new pan, no new rollouts. This is my first update where that's happened. I've had so many all of my other updates, I've hit multiple pans in or rolled shades out, and you know, this one's hard to swallow today. I'm a little bit like bummed, but it's okay. Why don't we go ahead and get into the looks? Now, I think I have mostly like 3 kind of color categories of looks. They either focused with mauve looks, orangey looks, or green looks. So why don't we go ahead and break them down that way. Now, the Mauves palette, I'll go ahead and say today I'm wearing this one. I'll zoom you in just a little bit. Hopefully you can see that I mostly used the shade that I'm trying to pan a lot on the outer corner. I built it a little bit into my crease. Mostly in my crease are these 2 colors mixed together. And then I did mix these 2 and also put it on my lid. And then on my lid over the top, I put Colourpop Glass Bowl, which I think is really beautiful. I think Too Much Tosh gave me that idea, so I have to credit her with that. And then I also took the Raisin shade from the Natasha Denona Mini Lila palette, and I ran that on my lower lash line just a little bit and zoomed you back out. Now this one I don't have a ton of looks with, because I either kind of did that where I ran it on my lower lash line, or I do have one look where I used my Modern Renaissance palette and just kind of built up like a slightly, like a a kind of neutral tone color in the crease, and then I topped the Primavera shade on my lid, and then as a liner I did build up Raisin as a purple wing liner. I really did like that look, but again, I was expecting when you use like such a thin brush and like pack a color on and build like that, I was expecting to see more progress that day in this pan, and it looked like brand new again. So, and then also again, like I said, I mostly just stuck with Primavera as a lid topper shade, and a lot of times, most of the time, I just used it over my Solmåne palette. So the Solmåne palette turn out so similar because this shade really does like determine that a look is gonna look like yellowy orange. So I would put this all over my lid and up into my crease and either top it off with Primavera. One day I topped it off with this glitter topper shade here. This reminds me a lot of one of the shades in the Natasha Denona Gold palette that has like one of those translucent bases, but it's got like a gold glitter that is just like topped over things. And so honestly, that shade and the Primavera shade, they look so similar. And then another day, I want to say that I did a Colourpop Super Shock Shadow. Let me grab it. Yes, I used the shade I Like You, which is a very orange shade. So it ended up pulling so much more orange because I have orange in my crease, and then I tapped that over my lid and it was even more orange. And I think I used the Lorac like dark truffle shadow as a liner that day. A lot of times I use that one as a liner typically. But yeah, that's a very orange base look. Going back to the Mauves palette, I again, most of the time would build up my look the same way. These in the crease, outer corner, maybe this one up into the crease a little bit. And then I tried different kind of lid shades like the Glass Bowl shade. I pulled one from my BH Weekend Festival palette and I used the shade Solstice down here, which was really pretty. It's such a glittery, beautiful shade. Really enjoyed that pairing. And then I also used a couple other Super Shock shadows. I have two here that are very similar. One is in the shade Twitter Pated. I really like this color. I think this is probably my favorite out of the two. Mine's a little bit old, so it's getting a little dry these days, but hopefully you can see there. It's kind of like this beautiful rose gold kind of color. And especially if you like tap it on, it's so gorgeous over those mauve shades. So I really enjoyed that look. I think I wore that one twice. And then the other one here is Rachu from Colourpop. And this one's a little bit more of a bright pink, but it still very much pulls rose gold on me. Again, this one's a little bit older, so it doesn't build up quite as well on my fingers as it used to. More pink, but still definitely a rose gold, and you definitely have to like dig to build that one up. Another pretty look, but I think I just prefer Twitter Pated. Since they're so close, I would go with Twitter Pated over Rachu. But yeah, all those mauve colors end up looking very similar. And then with this palette, I almost ended up with the same look every time because the Sprite Green kind of also just takes over a look like that orange color. And so what I ended up doing, I think one day I tried to use it as an inner corner pop. I didn't love it that way on me, but then again, it was one of those days where I've been feeling a little bit lazy lately and I haven't wanted to put lashes on. And I know that I always feel a little bit better about a look if I'm putting on lashes. So perhaps I should have put lashes on with something like an inner corner pop of color, but I most of the time would use this as inner corner or on my lid, as I do like it as a like halo pop. So I would put a cool tone matte in my crease. I typically would just work out of this Lorac Pro 3 palette, and I use this cool taupe shade up here, put it into my crease. In the outer corner I would build up truffle, inner and outer corner sometimes, and then on my lid I would kind of just like place, oh I didn't I didn't get any product on my finger. I would kind of place my little green shade as like a pop of color right in the center of my like halo eye. I did like that quite a bit, and then also I tried it wet and it was a little bit more intense, which was nice. But I do find that this shimmer formula does kind of fade on me throughout the day. Like at the end of the day, I don't tend to struggle with eyeshadow staying on. So I was a little bit bummed to see that it faded on me a little bit. But at the same time, I really didn't buy this palette for the shimmers. I really bought them for the like grungy green tones. And I do like the palette, but I struggle. Maybe I should try it over a glitter glue next time, and I probably won't have that issue with fading. So if you're someone who struggles with fading, this is like one of the only palettes that has faded on me, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Why don't we go ahead and wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that it wasn't a little bit more eventful. Hopefully next month we'll have something a little bit more interesting to watch. And yeah, make sure you say hello, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.